We have a new client who specifically wanted to hire cold callers from Africa, and so he did a bit of research before he contacted us, and he Googled which African country has the best American accent for cold calling. And according to his research, it was Uganda. But does Uganda really have the best American accents? In this video, I'm going to share which country I think has the best American accent, the factors that determine the accent, and everything else that you need to know to hire someone with a great accent for your cold calling needs. So let's dive in. Okay, so before we really get into this video, I want to preface a few things. First, the African continent is huge, and I think we kind of forget that, but it's a massive continent, and each country is very different from its neighbor. And altogether, there's about 2,000 to 3,000 different languages spoken on the continent. That's a lot. That's thousands of languages spoken across the continent. However, almost half of African countries have English listed as an official language. I think it's about 24 countries. So again, half the continent has English listed as an official language. And thinking back to my days when I was backpacking across Africa, I never went anywhere where I did not find an English speaker. Obviously, in capital cities, there were tons of English speakers, but even in rural areas, there were places I went and I could always find at least a few people who spoke English. You know, English is everywhere across the continent. However, when it comes to cold calling, the accent does matter. And again, I would like to preface this with I don't think accent should matter as much as it should. There's so many other factors that really determine if someone is a good worker or not. However, when you look at, let's say, cold calling specifically, a cold caller has anywhere from 8 seconds to 30 seconds to really hook the person on the phone and keep them on the phone to do the pitch. And if the cold caller has a strong accent or is speaking in a way where the listener can't really understand them, they're gonna get hung up on. So while I don't love the accent matter so much, especially for Americans, statistically it does matter. And I know that when we meet with clients and we say on a scale of 1 to 10, what accent level are you looking? They always say a 9 or a 10 because it's important to them and it does statistically matter. So now that we got that out of the way, let's start looking at which African countries have the best accents. Well, first you have to determine which accent are you looking for. If you're looking for a British sounding accent, it's going to be more readily available if you're hiring from a country that was probably colonized by Britain. And so, for example, sometimes we have UK clients who want more of a British accent. And so we're looking at places more like Kenya, who has great British sounding accents, in my opinion. And also their schools to this day still teach British English. Now, we do have some American clients who like the British sounding accent. One of our best cold callers is in Zimbabwe, has a slight British sounding accent, and she kills it. She is by far one of our best performers. So yes, you can get British sounding accents in a lot of different African countries. If you want someone who has more of a French sounding accent, let's say you're in Quebec, and you want someone who either speaks French or has a French accent, then you're gonna go to a place maybe like Rwanda or Madagascar. There's also other accents. Some people will talk about like the Nigerian accent or more of an East African accent. And then it really just determines, again, by whoever you're calling, the demographic, and how sensitive they are to different accents. But if you're looking at overall accent-wise, I would again lean towards Ethiopia. I know I'm biased. I always lean towards Ethiopia, but when our clients really want a 10 out of 10 American accent, Ethiopians have, to me, by far the most American sounding accent, to the point where our clients always say, did this person live in the US for a while? Now, I don't know why Ethiopia has such great American accents, but they do. So if I had to bet which country in Africa is the best, I would say Ethiopia. However, that brings me to my next point. It's not all based on the country. There are other factors that determine someone's accent. For example, number 2 would be age. I find that the younger a person is, the better their accent is. I don't know if it's because they've had more English or what, the world's just more connected. I don't know what it is, but the younger a person is, I have found the better the accent is. Now, the third factor that will determine someone's accent is not just the country, not just their age, but the school they went to. And that can mean 2 different things. It could mean how much English they had in their school. So certain countries like Ethiopia make English part of the curriculum really young. So by first grade, they're already taking 1 class of English a day. And by the time they get to high school or college, it's all in English, except for the one Amharic class that they take. So that's a lot of English to go through. However, it could also mean other things. For example, no matter what country they're in, if this person went to an American school or a British school or an international school, they're more likely to have that American sounding accent or the British sounding accent because of the school they went to and the teachers that they probably had teaching them English. So it could be someone in Ghana or Zimbabwe or Zambia where the country might not necessarily be known for great accents, but because they went to an international school, they have a great American sounding accent. And the last factor that really determines someone's accent, honestly, I think is just how many Hollywood movies they watch. Sometimes when a client will ask one of our cold callers, like, why is your English so good? They'll say, oh, I binged Friends like my entire college career. Or one time, one of our best cold callers who has like the best American accent, I was on a Zoom call with him and his video was on, and he literally had a printed Rick and Morty poster on his like the back of his wall, and he went on and on about how much he loved that show and how he was always watching it. So obviously someone who is binging American Hollywood movies and TV shows, they're gonna pick up on the accent, the slang, and they're gonna sound a little bit more American because of that. So to wrap this up, the bottom line is I do think Ethiopia probably has the best American accent. However, we hire a lot from Zimbabwe, Kenya, Uganda, and the different accents will depend on which country colonized them, how old the candidate is, what kind of school they went to, and how much Hollywood movies and TVs are they consuming. But at the end of the day, you also have to remember that accent is a big factor, but it's not everything. You also want good work ethic. You want someone who has good experience. You want someone who has good objection handling. There's so many other skills that you have to layer on top of an accent to make someone really good at telesales. So if you want to learn more about accents, you can leave a comment below. Or we recently did a podcast episode on our Choose Africa podcast, and we literally inserted 3 different audio samples of some of our team members and what the Ethiopian accent sounds like in particular. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. It's Choose Africa. You can also find it on the YouTube channel. So just go to the Choose Africa podcast on Apple iTunes or Spotify, and you can hear the accents there. Thanks for watching.